A very good morning. The top business stories live from the Sky Newsroom. Electric vehicle targets are under review following job losses and a backlash from motor manufacturers. Do supermarket loyalty prices actually offer savings when it comes to those cards that we all use? We'll be asking the Competition and Markets Authority. Plus, why is Smithfield Meat Markets to close after 900 years? A very good morning and welcome to Business Live with me, Darren McCaffrey, on this Wednesday morning. Well, if you were watching yesterday, we reported that the government was considering watering down its targets for electric vehicle sales, just as Vauxhall announced plans to close its factory in Luton with the loss of 1,100 jobs. Well, Downing Street has now confirmed an urgent review of its EV policy. The Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, is set to outline the details after Prime Minister's Question Time in the Commons this afternoon. Let's speak to Fiona Howells, Chief Executive of Octopus Electric Vehicles. Very good afternoon to you, or morning rather, even, Fiona. Just let's look at what the government is almost certainly going to announce this afternoon, which is this consultation to look at what's going to happen with electric car sales. It almost certainly means a watering down of those targets. That might be a good thing.
Well, I think there are two different sides of the story. So the ZEV mandate, the electric vehicle targets, are really around the number of sales that we are seeing in the UK today. And actually, sales are up 14% year on year, and we have over 100 different models from 30 different manufacturers. It's really exciting and it's really competitive. Some of the car manufacturers we're hearing a lot from are actually not the ones that we are buying as UK drivers today. On the other hand, the cars that we're making in the UK are in a global market, which is under pressure at the minute, and they are exporting 80% of them, and they might need some extra support. So I think it's not necessarily that we need to change a lot of the ZEV mandate targets to meet those needs, but actually look at other ways to support those manufacturers.
So when Vauxhall yesterday say that 1,100 jobs at a factory in Luton are at risk, and they blame electric vehicles and these targets, you're saying you just don't believe them, or that they've done something wrong effectively?
Actually, a lot of the vehicles, actually all the vehicles that are made in that factory at the minute are diesel vehicles. The companies that we have here manufacturing cars are in a global market, and 20% increase in global EV sales up is impacting everyone, as is kind of overall capacity to make cars has gone up as well versus demand. So these companies are in a tough global situation, which we need to be thoughtful of and think about those jobs in Vauxhall, in the Luton factory. But it's different from actually what we're seeing on the ZEV mandate EV demand side, which is that drivers in the UK really want EVs. 1 in 2 drivers in the UK want their next car to be electric, and we are seeing amazing electric cars coming to market. Unfortunately, some of the car companies are slow to have caught on to this, and you need to invest years in advance. So some of them are playing catch up now, and they're looking for support during that phase, but actually we need to support them in different ways rather than undermining the current legislation, where we've unlocked billions and billions of pounds of public charging infrastructure money investment.
Well, I mean, you say undermining those targets, but in the end, actually, the government will turn around and say they're not going to change the destination, just maybe the speed of which they get there. And if that saves people's jobs, or it means that you take more companies with you, that has to be a good thing, surely.
Well, actually, we're also seeing a lot of jobs on the EV side as well. So in our services business at Octopus, in the last year, we've employed 3,000 new people to install heat pumps, EV chargers and solar panels. And in fact, we're going to be doing the same. And actually, I'll be reaching out to the Stellantis UK MD later today to see how we can help with the Luton staff so that we can guarantee an interview for people that are coming out of that factory and see how we can help them land a new green job, green collar workers, as somebody coined it to me earlier today. And it's really an exciting time where we've got a new industry that's being born, and how we think about investing in that, battery factories, EV factories, really investing in that new world for long-term job security rather than looking after a kind of diesel factory, which unfortunately there's not a lot of demand for now.
Yeah, but in saying that, Fiona, You say it's an exciting time. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? And many people will be sitting at home saying this is the problem with, people in your industry who may well have a point, frankly, about an electric future. But you say it's an exciting time. It's not an exciting time for, and that's not your responsibility, but it's not an exciting time for the 1,100 people who, a couple of weeks before Christmas has just found out they're going to lose their jobs.
I absolutely understand that, Darren. I do think it is a very tough time, and it's a shame that car manufacturer hasn't at this point made that transition as quickly as they needed to. However, we will look after them and we will find ways to help them. And I know that there are lots of other jobs and opportunities for them in the future ahead. OK,
Fiona, appreciate your time this morning. That is Fiona Howarth, the Chief Executive of Octopus Electric Vehicles. Thank you. Now, does loyalty pricing at supermarkets actually offer savings for customers? Well, the consumer group Which has argued that they could be a rip-off, but today the Competition and Markets Authority, which has been investigating, has found that they do offer genuine savings, but they're not always the cheapest option. Joining me is George Lusty, Interim Executive Director for Consumer Protection and Markets at the Competition and Markets Authority. Quite the title there, George. Very good morning to you. So just talk us through what you have discovered looking into this. It's been quite extensive, hasn't it? Thousands of goods in many of our biggest supermarkets.
We took these concerns really seriously, and we've done a really, really detailed look at all the data. We've done a big survey of shoppers as well, and there's a pretty simple message that emerges. You can trust loyalty price promotions. They offer good savings. We've looked really closely at the data. You're right, they won't necessarily always be the cheapest price in the market, but the offers that they make are genuine, and the average loyalty price promotion will save you, on average, between sort of 17 and 25% on that product.
Yeah, and just to be clear here, we're talking things I'm sure we've all got used to it, tens of millions of us have them, Tesco Club cards, Nectar cards, Morrison More cards, etc. Just in terms of that kind of price difference, I think you guys have worked out there is a saving on average between 17 and 25%. It is quite significant. So there is a disadvantage to not having these cards, but then aren't there allegations that the supermarkets are using these cards to also collect lots of data on us?
So the vast majority of us have got a membership of one of these schemes. About 97% of us do, and several of us have got membership of more than one scheme. Some people don't, and a small minority of people don't because they're not comfortable with the use of their data within the schemes. We've looked into that, though, and we're satisfied that the grocers are complying with consumer law when it comes to clearly explaining what's happening with people's data. And for most people, that's not a real barrier to them being able to access the savings in these schemes.
I think the most annoying thing for me, George, frankly, is that, my wallet's full of these cards because you go to different supermarkets, don't you? And so you need all these cards for the different supermarkets. Many people sat at home would be thinking, if you can sell these goods for this price, why just not sell them all the time?
So it's very much a sort of choice for the supermarkets about how they promote their goods. And as we've said, we've looked into this. There are genuine savings on offer. Most people from our survey do like these schemes. They like feeling special as a loyal customer of those shops. But it is really important that people can trust them. I hope that the work that we've done today will send a really clear signal to people, yes, you can. We've looked into all the facts and the figures, and there are savings within these schemes. It's interesting, though, that when we surveyed people, quite a few people, 55% of the people we surveyed, thought that the non-member card price was inflated. We've looked into that, and that's not borne out by our analysis.
We are a sceptical bunch, but for good reason, maybe sometimes. George, thank you. Appreciate your time. George Lusty there from the Consumer and Markets Authority. Now, EasyJet has seen a 34% increase in annual profits, surpassing pre-COVID levels for the first time since the pandemic. The budget airline reported pre-tax profits of £610 million for the year up until the end of September, up from 455 million quid the year before. And passenger numbers were also up 7%. Well, joining me now is the outgoing Chief Executive of EasyJet, Johan Lundgren. Johan, very good morning to you. These are undoubtedly good figures.
No, it is. It's a very strong performance in the year as well, and it's really driven by the fact that we did three things. We managed to, have a record performance in the summer, which beats last year's record performance, reducing the winter losses in the airline, which was quite a challenging winter given the situation in between Israel and Hamas, and then also the success of EasyJet holidays. So we can see that demand from UK in particular is and continues to be very strong, and we managed to capture some of that.
What is spurring on this growth, if you like? Is it a desire for people simply to go on holiday? And I know the holiday division has done pretty well. And how is that reflective of business travellers who use EasyJet? Is there still demand there?
It is demand there, and actually we're not very far off in terms of the levels we had of business traffic in 2019, because we are aimed primarily towards small medium-sized enterprises as well, and they came back quicker than the larger corporations in terms of their business travel. But you're right. I mean, there is it's a very strong demand for holidays and for people to take a break, and we see that in survey after survey. I think Barclays came out with one survey here who said that people are prioritizing this even more now, and it's almost like it's not even looked upon as a discretionary spend. People really want to go on the holiday, and they're booking earlier. So we see now the bookings in for next summer is also very good. But like I said, even in this quarter we're in right now and the next quarter, we do see an increase in our capacity sold versus last year.
No, really interestingly, last week there was a case, I'm sure you're very aware of it, in Spain where, the courts there decided there were abusive practices when it comes to lower cost airlines, if you like, EasyJet part of that. Concerns about charging for seats, add-ons, hand luggage, reserving seats for children. Do you accept there still is an annoyance, a disquiet from customers, maybe even from the authorities across Europe, about these charges that EasyJet customers continue to have to face?
Well, first of all, we should say we completely disagree with this decision in Spain, and in fact, it's actually illegal versus European law, and European law trumps this. So we don't expect this to go anywhere, and we're going to fight this because it's actually quite anti-consumer, because it kind of suggests that actually you should take on and bear the burden of costs and services that you don't particularly want to buy. The whole unbundling of the package where you are free to choose. And remember, 1/3 of our customers do not choose to pay for an ancillary. They don't buy that. So why should they then take on the burden and the cost that other people want to do? And the increase we've seen in the ancillaries is not so much in terms of pricing. It's really about the fact that people buy this more and more. So we don't expect this to go anywhere else, and we don't see any signs that this is an issue in other countries. And like I said, in fact, it goes against the European consumer law, and it is anti-consumer from the Spanish government to do this.
OK, Johan, and just focusing on the UK, where, of course, you are headquartered, Mark Kleiman, our city editor, is reporting today that the airports are pretty angry and have lashed out at the government today about these big tax increases on businesses. Are you concerned about the rate increase when it comes to national insurance, maybe even the increase in the minimum wage, and the drag that might have on businesses like yours? Would you like the Chancellor to look at these tax rises again?
Look, I'm probably less upset than perhaps some of my CEO colleagues that is out there. Look, the government has many priorities, and they're making some, very difficult choices to do. We will not be, significantly impacted on this in terms of, minimum pay, because we already are paying that. We will have an increase clearly on the national insurance. I'm more upset about the fact that they've chosen to increase the air passenger duty from 2026. I mean, that goes completely against their focus, which is the right focus, I believe, on economic growth. we see other countries who completely been removing this type of taxes because they want to focus on economic growth. That underlines means that there needs to be mobility and accessibility to transportation. So it's more the fact that they're not going to achieve what they want to do when they're adding on that type of taxes. But look, as a large company, I think we have to deal with the consequences of some of the decisions they've taken on NI. So, like I said, I'm mostly concerned about the APD increase, but that will come in play in 2026. But the rest, I think we as a large company has to deal with.
OK, really appreciate your time this morning, Johan, and good luck with whatever you decide to do next. That's Johan Lundgren there, the Chief Executive of EasyJet. Thank you. Let's just bring you some breaking news coming into us, and that is that the former Conservative Party leader, Lord William Hague, has been elected as the next Chancellor of Oxford University. Lord Hague of Richmond has won a majority of support in the final round of voting for the post. Of course, he has been famously up against Peter Mandelson, Lord Peter Mandelson. There was a battle between those two to see who would become the next Chancellor of Oxford Uni. He becomes the 160th Chancellor in a role that dates back 800 years. Now, talking about history, London's historic Smithfield Meat Market is set to shut after almost 900 years of trading. The City of London Corporation has voted to stop operating both Smithfield and the famous Billingsgate Fish Market. Let's speak to Chris Hayward, Policy Chairman at the City of London Corporation. Very good morning to you. I suppose the big question is why?
Well, for a number of reasons, really. I mean, firstly, markets and the wholesale market world is changing. We've run 3 wholesale markets, not just Smithfield and Billingsgate, but also Spitalfields, our fruit and veg market, which we will continue to run. But in the case of the other 2 buildings, both Billingsgate in Tower Hamlets and our own Smithfield market here in the City of London, they are in very, very old and dilapidated buildings, which would require huge investment to bring them up to modern day standards. And frankly, that's an investment we can't make. We then looked at possibly building a new market down in Barking and Dagenham, but that again also proved too expensive. And the other factor is, frankly, many of our market tenants want to grow their businesses and expand their businesses, and they can't do so on our existing sites.
In saying that, 900 years is a hell of a long time, and I get it. I think I heard you yesterday saying London is a city that constantly evolves, and we understand that. But, these are iconic places, and is it really necessary, I suppose, is the question.
Well, look, they will still remain iconic places. So we have a very ambitious master plan for Smithfield going forward to develop it into a major, not only commercial, but cultural area. We've seen what regeneration in other parts of London has done. King's Cross is a great example, frankly, to point to. And in the case of Billingsgate, that's a site which will allow 4,000 homes to be built. And frankly, there is a crying need for more housing in London, as we know. So, of course, there's a tinge of sadness in some ways at the end of the historical moment for Smithfield Market. But also, our net zero policies mean we can't really have big diesel lorries trundling through the streets of the city throughout the night.
I suppose, Chris, though, that's my next point, though. Lots of these markets sell to businesses in the centre of London. The proposal is to move them further away. That surely is going to actually add to the carbon footprint.
To be fair, it's not entirely to move them further away. What we're saying is that these tenants, market tenants, will receive compensation packages to allow them, with our assistance, to set up either in groups or individually in other parts of London. So from the food security chain perspective, there's really no change. It's just the same thing happening in another part of London. And frankly, I have to reiterate the point I've made recently, which is London is forever evolving. The City of London is forever evolving and changing. And the city has, frankly, managed to maintain its position as a global leader, not just in financial and professional services, but in culture and in tourism, because we've adapted to the changing needs of business over the past 1,000 years. So I actually see this as part of our renaissance as a square mile at the moment.
Yeah, and I get that. I suppose, I don't know, maybe it is nostalgia, but I think replacing Smithfield Market, which, as I say, has been around for 900 years, with some flats, and I get it, apartments, housing badly needed. I don't know, seems a little disappointing.
Darren, let me just be clear. We're not actually going to replace Smithfield Market with flats. We're talking about housing on the Billingsgate Market.
Okay.
Smithfield will be a major cultural and commercial area.
Okay. Chris, appreciate your time. Chris Haywood there from the City of London Corporation. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
You're watching Business Live. We'll take a quick break. Up next, it is the markets. The FTSE barely changed. All the details in just a couple of minutes.
Prime Minister Modi is the most popular politician in the country. He is expected to win his third term in these elections.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party, a promise fulfilled. I'm Neville Lazarus and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi.
He paid over 50,000 to traffickers to get him to America. Instead, he was kidnapped, tied up, and threatened by smugglers. A commando from the state force walks me through to a Mai Tai village on the front line.
Firing to civilian and they're burning our house.
We cross to the opposite side, held by the cookies.
When they fire, we have to retaliate.
Sky News get the full story first. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration.
The enthusiasm is palpable. The young desire change.
These elections are a pivotal moment for the country's economic and political history. The concern here is that the public healthcare system is inadequate.
In a prayer, she's asking God to help understand what happened. I cannot carry on. God, help me. He says his world has crashed. Like him, there are scores of families searching for their loved ones.
Too often have families endured such tragedies for the negligence not only by the administration, but also by spiritual people in this country. Free wherever you get your news. Even though it has few seats in Parliament, Kashmir is symbolic and very significant. It's often been called a nuclear flashpoint.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Let's have a look at the markets. And the FTSE 100 has opened a little flat this morning. It's not a smidge, isn't it? But it's pretty flat. EasyJet, though, they're doing pretty well. Shares flying high today, up just over 0.5% on the back of those profits. Mitchells and Butlers also enjoying a surge. The managed pubs and bar chain, which includes the Harvester, Toby Carvery and the All Bar One brands, posted some strong sales, so they're up 2.45%. The pound, which has taken a hammering in recent weeks against the dollar, is actually up today at 126 and also up against the euro. And the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah has meant there's been relatively calm on the oil price, been bobbing around $72, $73, $74 a barrel over the last week or so. Let's speak to Emma Wall. She's head of Platinum Investments at Hargreaves Lansdowne. Very good morning to you, Emma. We're actually going to turn to the US if we can, because we're expecting, I think it says 24 different information points today.
Yeah, it's a bit of a data bonanza today in the US. This is partly because tomorrow is Thanksgiving, which makes it a national holiday. And the day after is not official bank holiday, but you kind of don't get that many people at work the day after Thanksgiving. So 24 data points today. We've got inflation, a revision or update on the third quarter GDP figure. We've got orders data and jobs data. But the one that everyone is watching is PCE, which is a measure of inflation. It's said to be the Fed's favourite measure of inflation. It's personal consumption expenditure. But it's likely to be 2.8%, which is, of course, above target. And it's that data point that everyone will be looking at in order to try and predict the next interest rate decision. Currently, we've only had 2 cuts from the Federal Reserve this year. And you will remember this time last year, or December last year, we were predicting as many as 7 cuts, or the market had priced in as many as 7 cuts. The market currently is on 50-50 on whether they'll cut in December, which is why the data today, if I had to sort of order them in terms of importance, it's that inflation number. But equally, the revision or update on third quarter GDP, coincidentally also coming in at 2.8, so 2.8, obviously that magic number today, and the jobs and the orders figures. So orders is what businesses are placing to sort of show another measure of actually how healthy the US economy is.
Well, and the US economy is pretty healthy, certainly relative to European economies, or most of them at the moment, particularly the big ones, Germany, France. You know, we've got political and economic instability in both of those kind of cornerstones, if you like, of the European economy.
Yeah, we have. I mean, it's just quite an interesting state for sort of economists right now, because France and Germany, often the absolute, core economic drivers of the Eurozone, the nations that others look to bail them out if they're in trouble, are actually the most beleaguered in Europe at the moment. So France, with really rising debt issues, having to put through considerable amount of spending cuts through Parliament, and Germany really struggling to generate any growth. So both a macro level, but also on a micro level, if you look at individual stocks. So industrials and autos in Germany, which normally are the powerhouses that drive that stock market, really struggling, particularly autos. We've been hearing a lot about EV this week, and actually Stellantis struggling to create the actual demand for its supply. And in France, actually the luxury stocks, which really drove the stock market all through the pandemic, have really suffered in recent months. So you've got both a macro and a micro issue. And then on top of that, you've got the story that is already driving stock markets across the globe, and that is Trump. He's not even in the White House yet. And yet the threat of tariffs is already driving both inflation expectations, so we're back to inflation again, and how that may play out in the US, and also expectations for how damaging those tariffs can be in the Eurozone. Now, the market has already started to discount the idea of 25% blanket tariffs on all imports from outside the US. But they are thinking, actually, it's probably not going to come down to 0. So perhaps some exemptions, maybe with Canadian fossil fuels, for example, because actually the US does depend on Canada for oil, and that would end up hurting the US. But Europe, definitely, it's looking like a sick dog, and it's not, the outlook is not looking any better.
OK, Emma, really appreciate that. And of course, I think the French also have to pass a budget in the next couple of weeks, which could be quite contentious. Emma Wall there, joining us from Central London. Thank you. OK, that's it from me on Business Live for just right now. I'll be back at 4:30 this afternoon. Do join me for that. Coming up next, it is Prime Minister Question Time with Jane Secker and Sam Coates. Stay tuned to Sky News for Keir Starmer up against Kemi Badenoch in just a couple of minutes.